Call the September 8th, 2014 USD 350 Board of Education meeting to order. I'd like to welcome all the visitors tonight. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0. Consent agenda.
Nothing unusual to report here. The budget report, we don't have that this month. Next month will be the first month we have that budget report, and no gifts or donations to report this month either. So you just have the minutes, bills, and the activity fund report there.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0. Are there any featured comments tonight? Okay. First up on the business agenda, school resource officer.
Chief Saylor is asked to speak to the board tonight. He's kind of exploring the possibility of maybe adding another officer to the city staff, and there may be opportunity to cooperate here with the school. So just kind of exploring that possibility. So go ahead, Chief.
Hey, before I get on that, just first of all, thank you for your time. Also, I'm sure all of you know, the past couple of years, we've really started more of a concerted effort on stepping up the safety aspect of the school. Officers being more of a presence during school, and everybody from Julianne to Mr. Meyer, principals, all of the office staff have just done a really good job. Anytime we need anything, they're right there, and then they're always good about passing on information to us that they think we might need to know. And I do want to say that the new the extra doors locked, the minimal entries into the building is a humongous step up as far as we're concerned. We were really happy to see that. Really what we want to do as far as a school resource officer would be, before we actually even started really researching that, looking at the policies or anything like that, was more to get your guys' input on that. If that's something that you would be interested in, if you have any questions as far as what that kind of position would look like. So like I said, I mean, it wasn't, the goal wasn't to try to do it and then research. I wanted to get the research part out of the way, and obviously you guys have the say, budget-wise and things like that, is what you could do. And I understand your guys' budget runs just like ours does, so obviously doing something quick and getting something now just wouldn't work, because of the fact that budget cycle's already been approved. So, I mean, what would you guys' ideas or thoughts on that?
Why don't you explain a little bit what a school resource officer might do?
Basically, it's a lot of people think that the idea behind that is the police department coming in and taking over the school and all that, and that's not what it is. It is more of I guess our changing culture, changing times and stuff kind of are starting to necessitate more of a officer presence, that kind of thing in the schools, all the way from minor issues from bullying, some of the discipline kind of things. Now obviously the smaller discipline is going to be handled by the school, and we're not looking to step in and take care of that. That's not our job. But also the aspect of heaven forbid we do have any kind of an active shooter incident, anything like that. You've already got an officer that's there, that's familiar with the building, familiar with the kids, and is in a really good leadership role to instill and implement and keep all of the safety measures up to date as far as training teachers, training students, and stuff like that. It's more of a safety presence, I guess.
I think it sounds great. It's just the funding. I don't know.
Well, And I'll be completely honest and upfront with you. This is one of my last ditch efforts as a chief of police to get my 4th full-time officer position filled. It's not looking like that's going to happen. So it would be, as far as funding goes, that one, it would be something that would have to sit down and be discussed. I, as the chief, and that person as a police officer, I would like to have, I guess, it sounds bad, I would like to have the majority of the control. So if that means that the city paid the majority of the salary, whether it be 2/3 and 1/3, 60-40, something like that, would be ideal for us, because that way, in the event of a major emergency, somebody has a prolonged illness or something like that, not only are we helping the school with a resource officer, but if we have to, we can pull that officer out on the street and help with an emergency or something like that, because in a small jurisdiction, that's a big part of what we do is helping the county when they have bigger incidences and stuff like that.
Would it be like an everyday thing at the school, or just
Yeah, it would be
2 or 3 days a week or something like that?
The idea would be to have it a Monday through Friday job when school's in session. And then one of the things that would help us is on breaks during the summer and stuff like that, and then we could have that officer on the street working some of those hours so the other officers can take some vacation time and stuff like that we haven't been able to take in the past few years. But there's also ways we can stagger it. If as a board you would like to see more of a constant officer present at ball games, Midwinter Classic, that kind of thing, then you could stagger those hours, and they might, instead of working 8 to 4 or 7:30 to 3:30 or something like that, and they could come in and work from 2 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night, 3 to 11, something like that. And then you have that that person and that extra visible security aspect of it at some games and stuff like that.
Would it be the same person every day, or would you guys switch?
We try to have the same person every day, because one thing we want to do with that is send them. They have what we call school, 4 school resource officers, and that would be kind of that person's specialty.
Yeah.
So unless they're on vacation or something like that, then you might.
Well, kids get familiar with one person.
Well, yeah,
It's kind of nice.
yeah, and that's what we're looking for. I mean, that is another thing that's not only appealing to us, but I would think would be appealing to you guys and parents too, would be to have that relationship in there. One thing, anybody, I'm sure Mr. Meyer can attest to this, in education, your early childhood education programs and stuff like that has a big impact on kids being involved in crime later. And in turn, having those relationships, especially in smaller towns with your law enforcement stuff, can have a really, it can play a big part of that. And we try to do that, but it can be kind of difficult.
Chief, what would a ballpark salary be for that position?
A baseline officer for us right now start at $14 an hour. And that's not, although it is would be technically a specialized training.
Right.
We don't have incentive pay or anything like that for specialized training. But one thing that I would do that I think would be appropriate would be to offer that, because that is more of an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday kind of position, would be to offer that to one of the guys that I've already got, just because they put in the years here. I think that would be appropriate to give them a chance at that.
Maybe 20,000, something like that.
Well, it would, yeah. A baseline. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
if the sergeant's been here 9 years and Charlie's been here almost 5, so they're obviously going to be.
Sure. I'm just trying
a higher
to think,
salary.
if we were talking a 1/3, 2/3, you'd maybe 10,000 for the school and
Right.
20,000 for the city, something like that. Just trying to get a ballpark idea of what that would cost us.
And one thing the city council has done, even though they haven't authorized that position to be filled, they have kept that money in my budget every year.
Mm-hmm.
So that would also be something that, as a board, if you thought, if we were interested in this and we could do it, that 10,000 was our line of what you could help, then, that's a good starting point.
I know from being on the council what you're talking about with the 4th employee, and there's a number there that might be interesting to know the difference between what all the overtime that the city pays the 3 officers compared to what a 4th officer on staff would cost. You know, I don't think it's very much money.
You mean very much of a difference?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
not, I mean,
And that might be something that the school, I mean, I don't know what that number is, but maybe that's a number that the school could pick up.
I got you.
See what I'm saying?
The difference.
The difference between all the overtime they pay with 3 officers compared to just having a 4th officer.
It's very difficult to talk about spending money on an additional position. And we've cut back, and it's a tight budget situation. I think it's at least worth exploring further, knowing that it'd be tough to make work budget-wise. If we're talking $10,000 for a position.
Well, and I mean, there's grants that can be looked at, that kind of thing too. But like I said, I mean, it's, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse and start and come at you with a bunch of numbers, and then if there wasn't any interest.
It's been several years ago, but it seems to me like that number was around $5,000 or $6,000. And, compared to having the 4th officer.
I don't know if I'm very comfortable with having somebody planted in the school to do this.
Is there a reason why?
I think that makes the kids feel like we don't trust them. You know, we've got a lot of good kids, and there's a few that maybe, like the rotten apple, spoils the whole thing. And I think that the kids will think, I would rather have a spontaneous visit once in a while and make them wonder when that's going to be than to have somebody here constantly watching them and.
Sure. And that is what we already do. I mean, I'm in, unless something
Yeah.
prevents it, I'm in
And
there
you
every
guys
day.
pretty well know the kids without having to be in the building 24/7. Now, at the functions and extracurricular, I'd like to see some extra help because our administrators can't watch everything.
Mhm.
As far as being planted in the school, I'm not in favor of that.
Well, are you looking full-time or nothing, or is there anything in between
Well, I mean, we don't,
with the school?
it would really need to be full-time. I mean, because if you're looking at part-time and using somebody we've already got, we're already extended above and beyond. I mean, we are all essentially, we're at a minimum covering 60 hours a week already. It's averaging on 70 plus. So, I mean, it would be it's just very difficult by the time you have, with 3 people, you have one, I work day shift, unless I absolutely have to work at nights to cover something. We have an officer that's permanently on nights, and then we have one that has to work either 1 to 2 day shifts, and then the rest, they work a swing shift, just to cover days up. So, I mean, schedule-wise, I don't know if that would work.
Well, Chad, were you meaning that if they had a 4th person, that 4th one would be just part-time in the school?
Right.
Okay.
Instead of
Right.
just with your current 3?
Yeah, I understand you can't do it with what you have.
Right, yeah.
If you had that 4th person, how much could you let that person help us?
To be honest, that would be something I'd have to sit down and look at. I mean, that's not anything I've ever considered, so I'd hate to give you an answer and then it'd be inaccurate, because that's another thing, it's kind of that bouncing around of shift kind of thing would be kind of difficult. And that's one thing that we've really, our council right now is not fond of. I mean, there's times that we need to have 2 officers on duty, and if they see 2 officers on duty, they're not a big fan of it, because of the fact that we're having expressing to them we're having a difficult time covering everything with 3 officers, and then they see 2 officers on a shift as we're just kind of blowing smoke.
Maybe this isn't appropriate, or not the time to talk about it now, but maybe the school should think about writing a letter to the city council wishing they would hire a 4th officer. you know, that would help us out at games and, you know, recommending that they really look at hiring a fourth officer. Because it does help us out, I mean.
Yeah, and in that situation, it wouldn't be impossible at all for, I mean, they're getting more overtime than they want now. With 4 officers, that's manageable, so that would be one of them times where I could say, hey, if anybody wants a few hours overtime tonight, then go work the game, and they'd be more than willing to do it. When we only have one on duty, we gotta kind of balance the time, because it seems like as soon as we spend an hour or two at a game, then we've got something going on somewhere else.
I don't know, I mean, I don't know, it's just something that I guess the board would have to talk about, you know.
I'd like to also get the teachers' input and things. Do they feel unsafe in the school, in the hallways and things, that they feel we have to have a resource officer? Or do they feel like they can manage it and just have them here every once in a while on call and, you know?
What's your time frame, Adam?
I mean, I would say we would have to at least be, you know, I would say a year from now. I mean, to allow that other budget cycle at least to go through, you're going to have that at a minimum. So I would say, you know, by the next school year would be ideal.
It gives us time to visit, figure out what we really, I just, man, I'd hate to have somebody walking the halls.
Sounds like there's some interest, at least part way.
Yeah, some help, but not.
It'd be a big step for us as a district.
Yeah, and then when we get into discussing the money situation, number 2 on our list here is, you know, our board goals. How does that fit into our goals and what we're prioritizing?
Yeah.
Is the
I mean, we
is
can't
the
afford to get
safety?
rid of
I mean, it's
teachers
always a
and
priority, but it is is it something that's we need to add to in that regard? It's all part of that discussion.
Well, regardless, I mean, it's not going to change, you know, that's why I wanted to feel it out first. I mean, if that's not a direction you guys want to go, then that's perfectly fine too. We'll just keep doing what we're doing and maintaining, you know, the presence that we can and be there for whatever we can be used for.
We appreciate your help. Thank you.
I think we need a little time before we give you that kind of.
Well, we need to see how much it's actually going to cost us.
Sure.
So,
We're open to at least continuing to discuss it. Kind of what it sounds like.
Okay. Well, I'll just, what I'll do, I'll go ahead and, you know, I'll just put some numbers together, some kind of staggered figures, and have that ready. And then if you guys want to hear some more and discuss it some more, then we'll be ready. And if not, then that'll be fine too.
Fair enough.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board goals for 2014-15 school year.
I have a separate document on there. Take a look first at page 33 on your supporting documents. Thought we had a pretty good discussion. This I sent you with the packet. This is what Mr. Sechrist went over with us at the last meeting, the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. Pretty good information there. I don't think anything earth-shattering there. It was good discussion, good things to think about. A review of our goals from last year. Overall, we thought goals are being met. I think our goals they're not things that we're just done with and we move on. These goals we had in place last year, kind of ongoing. And I think we see that in what we've done here. We consider a lot of these met, but it's still a valid goal. For example, our technology most of us felt that we've met that goal, we've done well, but it's still a valid goal to continue down the road. So all of those are pretty similar. The only one we had some discrepancy on was number 3, well-maintained, updated, safe facilities. We've made some progress, but the overall maintenance, ongoing maintenance of the facilities daily and that is lacking still. Looking to improve that. And then also, as far as facilities, drug and alcohol use by students, maybe an added focus on that. This is what Mr. Seacrest came up with, the goals, and then the action steps, and then the action plan purpose. I kind of like that. I added that to the document. So these 4 goals, we eliminated the board policy goal. That's one that we need to keep moving ahead with, but it's something we just need to take care of, and not necessarily important to communicate to everybody. We did have one other one, number 4 on page 36, the goal B, as far as quality programs and opportunities, making sure our kids have access to those. One thing that came up is financial plan to use the educational foundation a little more. So what I did is I added that as a separate goal. Page 39 shows the goals, but I've adjusted those just a bit over the weekend. So I'm back on the documents on your iPad, that separate one says board goals. This is the final version here. So goal 1 would be adequate resources for technology in classrooms. That's not different. And then I added Mr. Seacrest's words there. Why do we have that as a goal? To improve student learning. It's all related to that. Number 1 is not different. Number 2 is explore the possibility of a one-to-one initiative in the district. We may be visiting with that, maybe at the high school level, maybe at the junior, senior high school level, about getting a device in every kid's hand. So explore that possibility. Goal 2, nothing really different there. Continue with advanced course opportunities and career planning. We're working on our local curriculum still. Goal 3 is facilities. One of the added ones, objective 1 would include technology tools. So that needs to be in our capital improvements budget and plan. Objective 3 would be create a facility maintenance plan. We have some things here and there, custodial expectations and some maintenance documents, but really bringing that all together in a more coherent plan, I guess. And then objective 4 would be the comment about targeting drug use and alcohol use among our youth. Goal 4 is not really different. I just added the word formal. We kind of have a staff recruitment plan. We've got things we're doing, but it's not a formal plan on paper. Same thing with our mentoring plan. And then goal 5 was added, ensure the financial stability of the district. Objective 1 would be use the foundation as a source of revenue, be more purposeful about that. And then objective 2, we've been working on anyway, but maintain sufficient cash balances in our operational funds. So I would ask for I guess, any questions, but if I missed anything.
Looks good.
When we're thinking about priorities, when I come to you with things we need to spend money on, initiatives that we need to do, things that we're going to spend time as a staff doing, I hope it all relates to this. And that's what I was talking about with Chief Saylor. Where does that fit into this? And I guess it would with maintaining the safe facilities. Is that a priority? Is that necessary? And it may be. But when we look at something like that and make those decisions, I hope we can come back to these as our focus. That's all I have on
what we talked about last meeting. Looks good. Any comments from Mr. Meyer or in general? Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the board goals.
Second that.
Moving seconded to approve the board goals as presented. Is there any discussion? On all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 6-0. Internship program.
Page 40 starts that. What we're talking about here is a work-study experience. Right now, we have the senior release during the second semester. Students can apply to be released from school to go to work. Why would we only do that on the second semester? I'm pretty sure that was set up because if they do that during the first semester, they're not counted as a full-time student. I think it is important that kids get some work experience. We've had some kids doing some of those things now. We had a student go to the city office last year, and it's under our supervision. The student was not paid. This would be, I guess, combining that. We're going to have kids, if they want work experience, they can do that. They'll get credit if they're gone for 2 hours during the day. They'll still get credit for 2 hours of internship or work study. But there's requirements that go along with that. It may be paid, it may not be, depending on the employer. So this will allow our kids to get real work experience in a supervised way, focused on learning the skills they need when they get out of school. I think this is very important that we give our kids that opportunity as seniors, and not tell them, well, you can't have any work experience because we need you here full-time, because that's how our funding works. That's focused on the wrong things. I think this helps us keep that focus on what's going to help kids be successful and productive. So I would recommend we approve this internship program requirements, and would entertain any questions about it. Lisa Cornwell put this together for us. She's heading that up, and she'll be supervising it along with Mr. Berlin and Mrs. Hacker. You can see they'll have a mentor and have to apply for it. There'll be an agreement.
So usually by the time they're seniors, they have all their credits done?
It depends on what a student's going to do. Really, with all the credits, a lot of seniors could get by with just government and English 4, and the rest would be electives. Some kids would be taking physics or college algebra, and some of those things. So it could be 3 hours, it could be 1 hour for this internship. So it's not a requirement, it's just giving our kids other opportunities. And we would still be supervising it.
Well, they still have to be at school in the mornings probably.
Yeah, and it could be that, I guess our seniors, they have their core in the morning, so they'd have to be here in the morning. I guess it could be maybe first hour they could miss to go, depending on what the job is, but most of them would be in the afternoon.
It makes a comment about getting a grade for this class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the Board of Regents or anything, I'm assuming that this doesn't apply to anything that's on what they need.
It won't apply
college
enough for qualified admissions. It won't count towards one of those credits they need. No. It will count as an elective.
Mhm.
So many electives are required, but as far as
Still place for it,
yeah.
yeah. Is this her official or final document?
There was one change that I got this morning from her, but I didn't get it in.
I know she has an incomplete sentence.
Okay, that may
That's
have been what she
corrected.
changed.
That's what she
Yeah.
corrected.
Where is that?
It's on page 15.
Okay, I didn't get
Yeah,
the new
15.
one in the packet. She got it to me this morning.
And I hate to kind of be particular, but
No, that's
her
all right.
alignment is not aligned very well. And I think if we're expecting kids to be professional, we kind of need to have a professional.
Yeah, and some of that alignment
It just came
maybe,
out that way.
maybe how it came across on this file,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So the businesses throw their name in the hat? Or how does?
It would be a student communicating with a business, or a business could say, hey, we need somebody to work. We'd like to have an intern for 2 hours. Either way, typically, the way I've seen it work is, you know, a student has a job lined up. And it works that way. There will be communication between the school and the employer. And time cards have to be turned in. Our auditors look at this when they audit that. They want to know that it's a school program, not just kids going to work and we don't have anything to say about it. So,
Well, the student wouldn't earn a wage. would they?
could.
Right. Says
It would be
paid
up-
or
It would be
unpaid
up to
on
the
there.
employer.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
And there's no expectation from the school district that students be paid for that.
And I noticed they talked about the reflection paper and that they were to present in front of the school board. That's good. I'm glad that they're doing that.
I just sound like a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the internship guidelines as presented.
Moved and seconded to approve the internship guidelines as presented. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0.
President Fisher, who made the second?
Bill.
Thank you.
K8SB recommended policy changes. Second reading.
We've got a page, you have that as a separate document. I'm sorry, let me get my thoughts together. Get a separate document. A few notes, page 48. It does not have, refers to drug and alcohol. Drug-free schools, it says insert local sanctions here. It will include suspension and up to expulsion as outlined in our student handbook. So we've got that wording in there that outlines what happens if students use drugs or alcohol. So we will insert that wording there. Same thing on page 51, where it says insert local sanctions here. So we will insert our local policy there.
What is it?
It is first offense, second offense, and third offense, short-term suspension, long-term expulsion, basically.
And this is just within the school, not extracurricular,
No, everything.
everything.
It's not, it wouldn't, this isn't referring to like our code of conduct for extracurricular activities. If it's a school-related activity or on school grounds, anything under school supervision is what this policy is referring to. This doesn't change that. If a student is drinking at a party on the weekend, how that's handled with the code of conduct.
No dispute between them and their parents.
Whatever.
Correct, as far as, yeah. Student Data Privacy Act is a new legislation that requires us to keep student data a little more private than it has been. Required us to inform parents of the way what student data is collected and how is that shared. So we have information about that. Every parent signed off on a form regarding that. Page 69 refers to cell phone use in school vehicles. It's prohibited. Driving with school district vehicles, unless of course there's an emergency. Page 72 is of interest. has to do with reduction of teaching force. Since the legislation changed, since the law changed and basically took away the teachers' due process rights with tenure, a lot of schools no longer have to go through the reduction of force procedures as outlined. This refers to our negotiated agreement. It says the following rule or the negotiated agreement. So this doesn't really change what we're doing. We still follow the negotiated agreement. Nothing has really changed for us, but this does clean up that wording that would allow for school districts to make those decisions based on educational goals rather than what's in the negotiated agreement. But again, we have it in our negotiated agreement and it stays there, so nothing changes there. Another thing that came from our legislators is to require the school district to inform all teachers that they're covered under the Tort Claims Act in the state. I believe just to say you don't need to belong to a union to get protections, you're covered already, is what I think the intent of that was. So other than that, a lot of legalese and adjusted wording here and there. The policies, should have that updated policy book this week with notes. So really all of these will be in our new policy book. So we're going to approve these policies, and then here shortly we're going to approve a whole new policy book. So that's the situation we're in now, but I still recommend approving these as presented.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the policy updates as presented.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the policy updates as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0. Review site council membership.
We have our site council membership and tentative meeting dates on page 59. Let's see the list of members. We added a couple, Ryan Witt and Adam Saylor, have volunteered or been volunteered by one of the other members to serve on the committee. So as a reminder, we kind of got this going last year with our site councils. Each building has a site council. We try to meet on the same night and then meet together as a district group. So I would
Is this an annual membership? Or, I mean, if
yes,
someone's interested,
speak up.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
You know somebody?
Well, no, I just trying to think ahead.
Yeah. If you have anybody that you'd like to ask to be on there, we're taking members.
Someone shows interest.
Yeah. It's meeting 4 times a year. You know, it seems like a lot of people on there, but somebody can't make one meeting. You know, it's missing the 4th of the year, so the more the merrier.
The parent, it needs to be a parent, it just can't, you
No.
only have one community.
Anybody? No, we can have more.
You can have,
We're supposed to have at least somebody from the community, and it can't be all staff members.
so the one you're missing doesn't necessarily have to be a parent. It can be
No,
a community.
no, and really, we could add to that list. So.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the site council membership list as presented.
For a second?
Second motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the site council membership list as presented. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0. Vehicle report.
Typically, we do this a little bit later and work on our vehicle replacement schedule. I believe last year was in October. I wanted to start that conversation a little ahead of time. If you notice our buses, number 3, 8, 15, and 30, those two that are highlighted have been sold. They were sold last year, but currently we're using number 3, number 8, number 30 as our 3 route buses. You can see the mileage on those 3. Number 30, we've repaired some, rusted out doors and some things like that. They're all showing a lot of age. 15 is not very reliable at all. We've used it on occasion. You see there's only 1,000 miles last year. Not very reliable. Number 1 and number 2 are our main activity buses. Number 1 is actually a 36 passenger. It's listed as 53 because we can count it 3 to a seat with the younger kids. Number 2, we can't count that because it's actually 2 seats instead of a bench seat. So you can only count 2. So really number 1 is our smaller activity bus. It's 36 passenger. Number 2 is our largest activity bus, and it's 48. What I'm leaning toward now is maybe moving number 1, our shorter activity bus, into a main route bus, one of our bigger route buses. And then buying another activity bus that's full size. We run into some situations where we can't fit all the kids on bus number 1. Fit every kid on there that if we need to go to a junior high activity. The next couple of years we'll probably be all right with that smaller activity bus because our numbers are lower. Long term, if you have 50 kids in the junior high and you want to take a field trip, we can't take that bus. We have to take number 2, and if we need to take the basketball team somewhere. We've run into that a few times. So I think having 2 full-size activity buses is probably the way to go long term. But our regular route fleet needs updated. For a large activity bus, you're looking at 80 to 85,000, and then down from there. Smaller.
Josh, how big of a bus do you need for the routes? Because I'm seeing one of them's a 49, one of them's a 53, but it's really a 36, is that right? On number 8?
Yeah.
And number,
Yeah. Number 8 and number 15 are basically 36.
they're
But,
36.
yeah,
So how
we
many
have.
Do you need that many?
We have, basically we have 1 backup. We run 3 routes, and we have 2 activities.
How big for how many kids?
We have, I should have brought the route information, we have to have one of the big buses going.
Okay.
Where does it go?
It goes to Hudson.
Okay.
But could the other 2 be handled with a smaller vehicle?
We do. The number 3 and number 30 are smaller buses. And those are running routes now. There's a route that goes south that has 6 or 8 kids on it, and depending, there may be another couple of kids that choose to ride one day, but it takes so long to run that route. It seems like a waste to go up and pick up 10 or 11 kids and then come down here and pick up 6 or 8. But if you didn't, they'd be on the bus for 2.5 hours. So last year, the south route, we actually ran with the Suburban.
So there's too many kids to run with the Suburban this year?
Yeah. And the trouble we run into there is we need those passenger vehicles doing other things. Tennis team and cross country practice and this and that.
So would we pay for this over several years? Or what do you
Yes,
think?
if we would make a big purchase like that, I think we would need to to do a lease purchase on that. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that kind of cash out.
On that 2009 bus, that's what we did.
Was that 3 years? Or do you recall?
We called when we went to American State Bank.
I believe it was 3 years.
And 85,000, just a bare bones, 53 passenger diesel, do you know how about?
48.
No, that'd be a good bus with air conditioning.
Okay.
I haven't explored it very deeply
Well, I just
yet.
didn't have any
Yeah.
idea, so it
Yeah.
kind of gives me.
It would be
something.
like the big activity bus we have now.
Okay.
I thought that bus cost us about 100,000.
It started before I started, so I'm not sure. I'd have to pull the files and look.
Does it stand?
Be really nice to get one painted blue with a tiger on the side.
So I didn't have,
Ivan's got
We'd
one.
like you one.
Talk to Ivan Milton.
I'm not making a recommendation now. We still need to kind of work out the numbers and, try to anticipate what we'll need down the road, but
Does it take a while to order them?
I think they have some on site. They actually have a bus bidding program, kind of like we purchase our passenger vehicles through the state contract. They have something like that now that they've implemented at the state level for buses.
I was gonna say, I think every school's in this dire need. I don't know, I'm surprised they haven't come up with something that helps schools out a little bit.
And when would you do that?
I think this year. I've got a lot of numbers to crunch yet, but it's, and then our passenger vehicles, we'll be getting rid of number 25. That's our oldest Suburban, whenever that expedition comes in, so we'll have the 6. So we're getting in better shape on our passenger vehicle fleet, but
Big bus.
the large ticket ones are a little more difficult to take care of.
Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. You got what you need there?
Yeah.
All right. Communications, board member activities and reports. Carl?
I don't have it with you, no?
Bill? Tom?
Maybe I could use this time to talk about writing a letter to the council encouraging them to hire an officer. I mean, I think if we can't afford one, then maybe we could help them out that way. It's something we have to decide on as a board. But I know when I was on the council, there wasn't that much price difference between fourth officer and what they're doing now. I don't know the details of what they're doing now, but it seems like it would help us if they did have a fourth officer. And I think Adam just came to us as kind of the last ditch effort. I don't think we have a safety constable. I think he's just taking up word on the board, and maybe you can talk to council.
I mind extra help, I just don't find out in the school.
It would be
Maybe
nice
it's
to
not
have
something we need
a
to do.
little more.
Maybe it's not our place.
Well, I think for the younger kids it'd be nice, especially,
Well, it'd be nice first thing in the morning, and then when school's out.
I'm fine, thank you.
And they have,
Activities.
I think it's nice to have.
The activities would be really good.
Yeah.
You know, and we could use that as incentive to, you know, maybe talk them into hiring another officer. I don't know. Maybe it's not our place to do that.
Well, it wouldn't hurt for them to know that we would appreciate more of a presence. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, not that they're not doing it now. I mean, there's an officer around in the morning, isn't there? Or is there?
Not everybody.
Occasionally,
That's so.
Mrs. Towns, you see?
I heard some kids talk about it this morning.
Not this time.
I couldn't see
Just not this time, no.
Probably was the parents dropping their kids off.
Yeah.
Go on in.
Well, would you be comfortable writing, putting something together
Yeah.
for us to review next meeting?
Yep.
You know, I don't know if it'll do any good, but it couldn't. I don't know. If we feel that way, then maybe we should do it, but if we don't feel that way,
What's everybody think of that?
that's a start.
Yeah, it's a start. I'd still like to talk to teachers and feel if they feel this is necessary. And I really don't want somebody in 24/7 in the
And
school.
administration too, I mean.
It's too much control.
well, I'm not saying,
We're not talking full-time.
I'm not
Yeah, I know.
saying hire,
That's right.
I'm not saying hire a fourth officer so they can be in the school. I'm just saying, you know, encouraging them to hire one for our school and our town.
Well, your community, yeah.
Yeah,
If money wasn't an object, I would do it in a heartbeat. I think
campus.
there's, yes.
In the
I-
school?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it work very well. And those officers become just like more of the school faculty members. You know, they're not uniformed up, you know, they may look like Chief did tonight, you know, a little professional, but not, for the most part, not in full uniform. And, you know, they talk to the kids, and it's kind of used as a step between, you know, every kid gets caught with a pack of smokes. You know, we can send you to the police and they can write you a ticket and let mom work it out that way. And we can go downtown and do that, or we can work it out here and help develop the kid. And, you know, so what I've seen, it's not walking around looking to arrest kids. You know, they become an employee of the school under our direction. Is the way that works, but so I don't have a lot of reservations about having that in the building, just because I've seen it work very well.
So does that sound like a plan, that Mr. Meyer put something together, then we review it next meeting?
Talking about a letter to the city.
yeah.
I wouldn't mind them.
Stan? Thumbs up? Okay. Okay, Tom, anything else?
No, that's all I got.
Barb?
To a couple volleyball matches and thought the girls look like they're doing well as a team and anxious to watch the future of them. So, can't think of anything else. I did want to talk to Mr. Olive and Mr. Meyer about doing a farm day. I think Leah had decided with you about it. I don't know if that was brought up. But the details may be coming later. So, and I did see an incident, and I should have just typed it to you, but I came down with Tabra And it was a day that was sprinkling, and there was a little, I think she's in kindergarten. It was locked out of the door, and she didn't know where to go. And her grandma just dropped her off and left. And, you know, I tried to take her down to the other door so she would know which door if this happened again, because I have a feeling it probably is a reoccurring event. And then the teacher came out and took her, but that's why I worry about that one door being locked so early, is people just drop their kids off and then they don't stick around to see if they make it in or not, if it's locked. So, anyway.
Stan?
Nothing.
Myself attended the South Central Co-op Education Board meeting in August. Administrative reports. Mr. Ollie?
Got our current numbers right now, 48 in our preschool, 159 K through 6. That's up just a little bit from last year. You can see that first grade's our biggest class. That's not a surprise. There were 28 in kindergarten. Now we've added one since last year. So that's our enrollment numbers. First full week back, we had our kids go to the pool. They're kind of spread out throughout the week, but first through sixth grade, they all had at least one day at the swimming pool, kind of as a welcome back thing. Our current band numbers, every fifth grader is in band right now, and all but a couple are in sixth grade band, so that's good that most of the kids are involved with that. Bike unit will be coming up towards the end of the month. Stuff to kind of work out with the new entrance, how we'll handle that road, because where they do it is just right out here, kind of where the new entryway is. So have that coming up. Tiger Pride Night. Thought we had a lot of people in the building that night. A lot of positive comments about the office and how the restrooms look, that type of thing. This Wednesday will be the first English language arts curriculum development of the year. Last year we did it with math, where we had several teachers work at developing that curriculum. This year we'll do it with English. First one of those is Wednesday, and I believe there's 7 or 8 days throughout the year that we'll work on that. And then Monday, September 22nd, will be our next staff development day. I think KASB will be here for part of the day talking about various legal issues like abuse and neglect, proper use of social media, those type of things, and then doing some stuff district-wide that involves like student data and measuring student growth, things like that. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Olive. Mr. Meyer?
And Mr. Olive was late because he was covering for Mr. Bergen at the junior varsity football game. Mr. Bergen was in Topeka today he serves on the Activities Association Appeals Board. So whenever they have an appeal regarding the rules, that board has to meet. So he gets to drive up to Topeka every now and then for that. So he was there today, now finishing up with the junior varsity game. So I'll give you Mr. Bergen's report. There's his enrollment numbers, and I'll go over some of those here in a moment. I'm not sure what he had on the CPL information. Fall activities, every activity, every sport has had something going on so far. The Central Kansas Orthopedic Group, that's our, we have our trainer come once a week. They'll come to our Midwinter Classic, and seems like there's another event they come to, so we have a contract with them. That's going on again. Teaching and learning, our online and dual credit classes. I don't have the numbers there, but we do have 2 hours during the day where students can take online college or other classes. Recall that we have the kids going to Barton County for automotive classes, college level classes there. And then we have our plant and animal science going on campus. I believe that's 3rd hour in the building. Working on building goals. We'll have those school improvement plans we can share with the board here maybe next month we could do that. Our 8th grade career class is a new addition. I know we've talked over the years about, more electives for those junior high kids. So the schedule's been restructured, so instead of having a full hour of PE and then a full hour of music and PE are together, so you every other day. And then the 7th graders have art and computers. They're taking a computer class, and then 8th grade has the FACS, the home ec class, and this career class.
Career class.
That's why I brought it up. So it's a career exploration class, part of the pathway for the FACS program. So.
I would like to add one more thing, and I think Mrs. Binky did this in front of the school with the tiger head. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah,
tell her, good job.
I will. Yeah.
Well, now we need one on this side.
Yeah, we'd hoped to get one on the south side there. We just didn't get it. Didn't quite have enough
Yeah,
time.
that's very awesome. Put that in the minutes, Mrs. Pound.
And then for my report, professional development, Mr. Olive covered some of that. Beginning of the year stuff, I think it went pretty well. We got everybody back in the building, up and rolling. We had a gentleman come in, presented on some technology. The biggest thing with technology is just having time to do it and knowing what to do. So got a lot of ideas there. Got Mr. Kingman and Mrs. Snyder up dancing and singing. It's kind of fun. September 22nd, we do have, as Mr. Olive mentioned, some things going on coming up. I will add, on President's Day in February, we're trying to put together a countywide professional development day. Stafford, Maxville, and us will try to meet up, and the teachers can share with each other and try to learn something from one another. So we don't have all the details together, but we're trying to get that put together. Multiple measures for student growth. This is something that's we'll have more discussion about. If you recall, we got a waiver at the state level from No Child Left Behind. There was a lot of stipulations with that. We had to change a lot of things, our evaluation instrument, how we evaluate teachers. It needed to be done anyway. This just kind of pushed us over the hump. One of the things that they're requiring is that as part of the teacher evaluation, we use different measures of student growth. Now, when I say that, first thing you think of is, well, we're going to evaluate teachers with state assessments. That's part of it. It was required that we turn in a form by June 30th that said we're going to be using these measures to evaluate our staff this year. It was very late in the year. We made the decision that we're not going to do that. I'm not going to throw something together just to appease the people at the state level. We want to do it right. We want to talk about it with our teachers. How is this going to work? So we did not turn in that form. But we will have to have some conversations about it. So what is that? What does that mean? Well, we do have to use state assessments as one measure. Mrs. Friesen, there is no state assessment for PE, so there has to be something else. We do use other types of assessments to evaluate kids on reading and how they're progressing in reading. So we are going to have to have some conversations about that. I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. We'll be talking about that on September 22nd with our staff members. Eventually, the requirements say we have to use student growth data to inform personnel decisions, which worst case scenario means if a teacher's not showing data growth in students, then that teacher could be fired. Worst case scenario, potentially. But that's where some of that is headed. I meant to bring the book over. One word that will change your life is a John Gordon book. If you've never read anything by John Gordon, The Energy Bus, we talked about that a couple of years ago. I think maybe some of you read that. One Word That Will Change Your Life is a great book. It takes about an hour to read maybe. It's a short read. We picked our word as a district to be pride, so that's our focus. I have my own word that I picked, and Mr. Allen did, and I think your staff is, for the most part, all pick their own word to focus on, but if you get a chance, it's a really neat book. Take time to read that one. Anything by John Gordon I'd highly recommend. Enrollment report. Here are the numbers for preliminary. Some of those things don't line up quite right, but last year would be on the left side, the head count, and then the FTE that comes from that head count. Kindergartners count as half. If they're special ed, they're here all day, they count full time. We only count the preschoolers that are special ed. So looking at our total head count, the non-graded would be the adult learners, the people we have at the Learning Center or here working on their ESL classes and working on some their graduation plan. I think that'll be up to 20, but 15 is what we have enrolled now. So if that is up to 20, that puts us at 332 for our FTE, which is actually up from last year. I was again anticipating being down a few, so being steady is a positive. So if we have to republish our budget this year, I'll be very, very happy because I padded the budget quite a bit. So overall things are flat, up just a little. High school we're at 111 compared to 107 last year, something like that. So we do have our bigger classes in the upper grades. So what that means down the road. Yeah, we do have a 29 in the first grade. That's a bigger class. But smallest classes are there in the middle. You can see that. I won't cover. Oh, the budget. What does that mean for our budget? I included that. Don't hold me to this. This is very, very preliminary. So what I think we'll see is between savings and additional revenue, about $150,000. Additional costs, not including fuel, groceries, and those things that typically go up but can fluctuate. I didn't include that. About $104,000. So right now, I think we'll be on the positive side of the budget, which is a great thing. Tiger Pride Night, I thought went very well. Great turnout. It was a fun night. I won't rehash that. Mr. Earl kind of mentioned that. Facilities update. If you notice the parking lot out north, Todd Wyckoff and Carl Nelson and their free labor, meaning their children, came up and did some work on the parking lot, put the posts and the cable fence around there. It looks real nice. And, we've kind of laid that out with some parking blocks. It's working well. We'll see what happens come basketball game time. But it looks great, and I appreciate their efforts. HVAC system here in the library, we're still waiting on equipment to get here. It's going to be a few weeks. In the end, it's worked out better. We're not going to have to shut down the AC in the heat of the summer. So there's no problem with the bank and the financing. We've talked to them there. We're still good. So it's all going to be up and running. Best case scenario into this month, probably first or second week of October. So boiler's gone, so we need a boiler in before it freezes. That's the AC. Beyond that, it'll get done. So working on them, communication with them. A building tour was on the list for this meeting. I think everybody's been in and out quite a bit. We just had our open house. So I took that off of the agenda. Typically on a yearly basis, we have this meeting. We don't go on a tour of the building. But so if you'd like to see anything, hit me up. I'll be glad to take you even after this meeting if we need to. Something you ought to pay attention to in the news is the efficiency committee. Statute called for a new efficiency committee to decide how schools can be more efficient. There's a lot of talk of certain mandates, mandating that schools use a outside vendor for their food service or to run their bus routes, things like that. A lot of that doesn't make sense, especially for us here. There's no bus company that will come operate our transportation routes. It's just not. Some of those things aren't feasible. So I worry what might come out of that. One word that always comes up is cheaper. We can always do things cheaper. I promise you we could cut $500,000 out of the budget. But that means we're going to do it with a lot less staff. We can combine 3rd and 4th grade and do it cheaper with one teacher. But effective needs to be part of that conversation. So that's going on. Administrative cost is another thing at the state level that they're looking at. I thought this was interesting data. This is school districts up to 500 FTE. This is listed by district number, so we would be on the second page of that, page 67. Julianne, you may need to help me remember what these codes are, but for central office staff, administrators, library, is that included there?
No.
No,
No,
just
it's,
office staff.
the 2,500 object is office staff, you know, copiers, photocopiers.
And school administration.
Well, the building principals are 2,400.
Yeah, that's included here, the
Okay.
administration.
And then 2,300 is superintendent and board expenses, so.
So they average this per pupil. And you can see we're right under the median. I think there's maybe 8 schools between our cost and the median. So what the state's interested in doing is looking at making school districts look at how we spend on administration compared to others. And one thing that's interesting that you find is half of the districts spend above the median and half spend below it. And that's how the median works. And it will always be that way. So half of the districts will, I guess, be inefficient and half are efficient. So it doesn't tell us a lot, especially when we can code things differently. Things may be not coded correctly in the budget. If we're above the median, we have to submit this form that says, what are we doing to be more efficient? What are we wanting to look at doing? So we don't have to submit this form now, but we're fairly close to the median.
Are they using this formula for Sam Brownback's equality on he said on all this advertisement he's looking for equality in the school?
Oh, yeah.
Equitable
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah. And one other thing on the state level is that report from the Kansas Center for Economic Growth. I sent that to you recently. I also included it in the packet. If you have a few minutes, take a look at this report. This is real stuff. Very telling about what's going on with our education cuts. I do have one other thing. I have a press release here. I probably won't send it out. Mr. Fisher got a certificate from Kansas Association of School Boards for Leadership Academy points. So,
Congratulations. What did you do?
I don't know.
You did it well, whatever you
I
did.
don't know what it was.
All those most costumes.
Gives me goosebumps.
Remember, as VP, you're his right-hand man.
Thank you, Mr. Marr. Personnel, we need an executive session?
Yeah.
It's personnel
Yeah, so 15 minutes on personnel.
with who?
Julianne to start out with.
You and you again?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board go into executive session to discuss personnel matters in order to protect the privacy of non-elected personnel with Mr. Meyer and Ms. Julianne Owen to be included, that we return to open session in 15 minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session to discuss personal matters in order to protect the privacy of non-elected personnel with Mr. Meyer and Julianne to be included, and return to open session in 15 minutes. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0.
Then we hire Pat Prescott as assistant football coach at .5 is what that is, halftime.
Okay. Entertain a motion to hire Pat Prescott as assistant football coach.
So moved.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded to hire Pat Prescott as the high school assistant football coach, .5 rate. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0.
And a motion to hire Kurt Fairchild as assistant high school boys basketball coach.
So moved.
Is
Second.
that .5 again?
No.
That's full-time.
Yep.
Been moved and seconded to hire Kurt Fairchild as assistant high school basketball coach. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0.
That's the only action for now.
Okay. Future agenda items?
Just what's listed there, I'm not sure that we'll have the financial audit report to present then at the next meeting, but the drone project, I've asked Mr. Miller to present what they're doing on that. They've got a helicopter drone that they're, I shouldn't use that word, that's a bad thing.
Oh, exciting.
Yes, they're a remote control helicopter. And then the situation that we discussed tonight with our police officer.
They're gonna fly around in this room.
It might be in here already, but it could be the size of a mosquito.
Knows where to go.
Wade did say the car was in very good shape, and he is glad that he is the recipient of
All right, good.
Russell.
Glad you come got it.
Yeah.
I know. I called him and I said, "You bought the vehicle?" And they go, "We did. I didn't know that." So he said he really is enjoying it.
Good. Good. Found somebody.
Motion for adjournment?
That's a move.
Moving second to adjournment. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 6-0.